Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy, and this is my podcast, Vox and Hops, where I hang out with my friends, and we talk about their lives, their music, their project, and we drink some great craft beers. And then I share that conversation with all of you. I hope that you had a great week. I had a great week. In 1 week, I am in Asia for the very first time on an extensive tour. The Laws of the Flesh 2019 starts on July 5th in Singapore. Get your tickets for that. It's going to be fucking crazy. You don't want to miss this. If you live out there, if you're on vacation out there and you want to come see a show, hit me up. Bring me some great craft beer. You can come to the show for free. Check it all out. It's on the Cryptopsy website, cryptopsy.ca, in the shows section. Check it out. Get your tickets. You don't want to miss The Laws of the Flesh 2019. Also in that section, you can see the dates that we added earlier this month. The Origin Tour in Latin America, which is going to be happening next November. Today, a great CD came out. My friends in The Convalescence dropped their new CD, Monuments of Misery. You guys should check it out. Get that CD. It's pretty fucking dope. It was recorded at The Grid, Cryptopsy's guitarist, Christian Donaldson's studio, and on one of the tracks, The Return, I have a feature on it, so you should check it out. The Convalescence, Monuments of Misery, out today. Today on the podcast, I have a local Canadian metalhead who is very involved in the metal scene. He is prominent on the YouTube channel BangerTV, and he is the metal editor at Exclaim. Today on the podcast, I'm with Bradley Zorgdrager. Let's check it all out. Here it is, Vox and Hops, episode number 39.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
What's up, everybody? Today I'm with Bradley Zorgdrager from BangerTV fame, as well as Exclaim.
Yes, sir. Hello.
How you doing, man?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very happy that you came out and came to hang out with me.
We reversed roles. Last time I saw you, I interviewed you guys.
Did you?
Yeah, Hard Luck.
Outside.
Hard Luck,
yes.
outside.
Yes,
you and
that
Flo.
was you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny how everything just blends together after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out on the road, hell over North America. Tonight is the last show at Lee's Palace in Toronto. It's been a good tour. I'm stoked. You are personally disappointed that Benighted is not there.
Yeah, I really do like that band, but I fortunately did see their, I think it was their, I can't remember if it was their first Canadian show ever or just their first Toronto show ever. It was definitely first Toronto, but I can't remember if it was the first show of tour. But either way, I've seen them before. It would have been cool to see them again, but I think the closest date that they were on was like 4 hours away and on a weekday, and I was just like, I can't swing it, unfortunately.
They are the nicest dudes.
Yeah,
they are just like a bubble of positivity, and they were like just totally taking advantage and like leaving super early to go sightseeing.
That's sick.
Complete opposite of us.
There was that bullshit interview that they had done. Did you see that?
No, I didn't know.
There was this guy, I forget what his name is, but he kind of like, he asked like really like edgelord questions, and he did all this like weird questions.
Oh, yes. And Julian did tell me about it. He's like, watch out, it was in Texas or something, in Dallas.
Yeah, it was Dallas. Yeah, because I was talking to the publicist afterwards, and she mentioned, I was like, where is this guy? Like, this is fucked up.
Yeah, he was at the Gas Monkey. I remember now.
Yeah, and it was just like not, like, if you ask weird questions and they ask you to take it down, like, you should be respectful. If like you know you're pushing the boundaries. You know, if a band asked me to take an interview down and it was like a very normal interview, I would be like, well, why? You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't immediately do it. But if you know that you're pushing the boundaries and you might make people uncomfortable, like, just take it down.
Or if there's like a question that a part of the interview that you don't like, you can just edit it out.
Yeah, know? Exactly. If like,
has that happened to you? Have you done an interview, posted it, and then a band comes back at you?
That happened for one of my writers, not for myself. I'm trying to think if it's happened for myself. I don't think it has. There's been some weird interviews before where like it was an email interview and the band refused to answer a bunch of my questions. So the publicist was like, I'm sorry, they're being difficult. Can you send me some more? So I sent some more. Then they were like, okay, they won't answer these two out of those. And I'm like, just whatever. And then they gave me the answers, and they were like, I asked who I could attribute them to, and they said the band prefers to be referred to as a collective. I'm like, oh, okay, man. Like,
it's a black metal band.
It is.
That's my guess.
It is. Sure. It is.
Let's give people a rundown of what you do. Who is Bradley? What did you do in your life? How did you get to where you are?
Cool. Okay, so I'm the metal and hardcore editor at Exclaim, where I also run the Aggressive Tendencies and No Future YouTube channels. And then I work with our advertisers. That's like the majority of my income. Like that's like most of my day-to-day stuff. And then I do album reviews for BangerTV. And I was the first person to get added to that beyond Sam Dunn, who it's his company. And for those who don't know, BangerTV, it's Banger Films, the people who made Metalhead Banger's Journey, Global Metal, Iron Maiden Flight 666, et cetera, et cetera. They made plenty of films, which I liked as a child. So it was pretty cool to work for them now. As far as how I got here, I'll do this really quick. There's an interview that I did online where it's got like the entire, like I typed out the entire thing, but I'll give you the Cliff's Note version because nobody wants to hear me talk for 15 minutes about this. I went to school for journalism. We had to do a interview about like a careers in journalism class. We had to do an interview about with somebody whose career we would want. I interviewed the metal editor of Exclaim, which now I am now. And then at the end, I asked him if I could send him some of my writing. I didn't think he would ask me to write for them. I was maybe hoping for some like tips, like stop using so many commas, whatever. He said, "Do you want to write for us?" I said, "Sure." Started there, eventually interned at Exclaim. As I was interning, one of the guys who was working was stepping out. I had been helping him with his role. They asked me to do it part-time. Did it part-time, then started doing it more or less full-time, but I toured sometimes. Then eventually stopped touring as much and started doing it full-time. Banger. At some point, I appeared on our show, Lockhorns, which is like a live stream debate. So I did the deathcore Lockhorns, and that's kind of, I guess, like the unofficial tryout for the reviews. You do that, and they see how you perform on camera and how knowledgeable you are, and I guess they thought I was good enough, so I eventually came out and tried to do an actual review, which was for Serpentine Dominion, that Corpse Grinder, Black Dahlia Murder, Adam D band. Which never got published. That was just a trial, and it was good enough, and that's years ago. I've probably done 50, 60 reviews since then.
That's insane.
People sometimes recognize me in various cities when I'm going to shows, which is flattering that people give a shit that much. So, yeah.
I think it has a lot of pull, BangerTV. I definitely watch a lot of the reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I've had publicists from metal labels tell me that to them, a Banger review is more beneficial than like an online review at like not to throw anybody under the bus or anything, but I think that the example that they used was like a Stereo Gum or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, Stereo Gum I think is not as much a metal publication, so it's like I think Decibel, a Decibel review is like potentially probably more beneficial for a band, but like Banger's up there, which was really cool to hear that from the side of the company who's trying to sell albums, and because they notice, they actually know, like if they get a review,
if there's actually an impact.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was cool.
You mentioned that you toured.
Yes.
Does that mean you were a musician?
I was tour managing pop punk bands.
Okay. Top pop punk bands.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So in the past, I'd done merch for a band called North Lane.
Like I know the name.
Metalcore, genty metalcore band. More prog metal now. Did merch for them. I did a few tours with Old Wounds and Exalt. The Old Wounds connection was just like I interviewed them and I liked them, and we just kept talking, and then eventually they were like, "We're coming to Canada finally," and I said, "Okay, dude, that's sick. Like, I'm going to try to come to as many shows as I can." And they just said, "Dude, just come out with us." And Exalt was on the tour too, and I've known them since I was younger because they're from Kitchener, where I'm from.
Okay. Yeah.
And then eventually there's a band from Toronto called Like Pacific, a pop punk band. They're on Pure Noise Records. I've known them, been acquaintances with them for 5-6 years, like a long time at this point. And verbatim, this is what I said. I said to their bassist, "Bring me on tour, you fuck." Like straight up, that's what I said. I looked back and saw the message later to make sure that's what I said, and it was. And he said, "Wait, you can drive, right?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I guess they didn't have somebody else who could drive, the guy who was like doing merch for them and stuff. And so I was like, "Yeah, I can drive, and I can also tour manage." Like, had never done it before, but I'm like, hey, I mean, I like spreadsheets, and I'm an organized guy, and I think I can figure it out. So I did, and I did that we did a few tours. Then I quit when we were going to do Warped Tour. I just was not feeling
too intense. It's so long, so many bands,
and I was making homie rates. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't getting like a full payday, and for that amount of work, and like I was in like just kind of a weird dark place in my life at the time. So it just wasn't right. It turned out great that happened. I came back. One of the first thing I did when I left was actually I went out to the Rock Pile out in West Toronto, Etobicoke. We were talking about it earlier.
Shout out to Steve.
Yes, shout out Steve. Saw Bury Your Dead there. It was really good to pull me out of like my funk because I felt really bad about not being on tour and like whatever. It was the first time actually that I saw my friend drunk. He'd been straight edge for a long time, and he shoved me up to the front. I don't mosh or anything, but he shoved me up, and I got captured in a picture, and it's on the back of a Bury Your Dead hoodie now.
Really?
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I don't own it yet. I've been talking to Chris, and as soon as they reprint it, he's going to let me know so I can order one. And then shortly thereafter, I saw Metallica play the Opera House in Toronto.
I saw that happen. That wasn't there, but I saw that it was. I had some friends over there.
Insane. And like for those who don't know, Opera House is like $850, $950 cap venue or something like that.
I think it's $1,200.
No, it's not, because Phoenix is like 13.
Okay,
and Opera House isn't quite as big. It's like I think just sub 1,000. Maybe it's 12 if they open the balcony.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Maybe. Either way, it's the smallest concert Metallica has ever played in Toronto, ever. Even like the first time they came here. So I got to go that. I got to interview Rob, which was really cool. And then I started doing the banger stuff. And if I had been on tour, all those cool things wouldn't have happened. So hey,
life has a path, and things happen for a reason.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Let's talk about beer. Vox and Hops is all about beer. I hit you up to come and do this interview, and you said, well, we can do it, but I don't drink beer. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. I've never drank beer. I've never had a sip of beer.
Wow.
I've never had a sip of alcohol at all.
Really?
In general. The closest I got was one time when I was 12 or whatever. My mom asked me if I wanted to try wine. And I was like, sure. So I like put it in my mouth. I was like, oh, and I spit it out. Was not a fan. And just never started. I was raised Christian, and so it was like getting drunk was not at the top of my family's priority list. And then probably around that time I was over the Christianity thing, 12, 13, whatever,
and the metal came.
Yeah, exactly, and was kind of running out of excuses to tell my friends I didn't want to drink or smoke weed or whatever with them. And then straight edge was cool for about 6 months. Throwdown was like the big band of the day. Mm-hmm. So I was like, no, fuck you. Like, sorry to go back. I was a very shy kid, so I needed the excuses. Like, I had to be like, I can't go.
You couldn't just stand up for yourself.
Exactly.
At that point. Yeah.
I couldn't just be like, no, I'm not going. I had to be like, I got to go to my grandma's, guys. I'm sorry. But then straight edge gave me like I was like, no, fuck you. I'm straight edge, which like in retrospect is like a stupid way to be straight edge, but like, hey, it got me through the time when I was too shy to just say no, just to say no.
Yeah, because peer pressure can be pretty heavy.
Exactly. So I've never tried beer. We've got ginger beer here.
You did, yes. You got the Great Jamaican Ginger Beer Company, and this is the spicy ginger beer.
Let's
see what it got. Let's taste it. You got to cheers first.
Oh shit, my bad.
It smells sweet. It's got a little spice to it, but not too much.
A nice kick, and I don't like spice. Like if I had to do hot ones, I would die.
I like that show. Yeah.
I love that show, but if I had to do it, I would die because I can't do spicy. So the fact that I can do this suggests that it's the appropriate level of spice, right?
No, I like spicy, but I try to avoid it on tour because you can't always get to a toilet when you want to.
Or you can, but it's not a nice toilet.
Oh, that doesn't bother me.
No,
I'll survive.
Fair enough.
If I gotta go, I gotta go.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about your interviewing. Throughout your career, you've interviewed a lot of people. How have you grown as an interviewer?
I'd say the one thing that I've done is I just do like obnoxious amounts of research at this point, both from wanting to do the best interview and also having a lot of like friends and acquaintances in bands and touring and knowing how terrible it is to just get that stupid, what are your influences and what's your band name? Like anything you can Google, like why would you ask that? Unless, I mean, there is an exception. For example, like a podcast like this or a video, if you need that to frame something for that, you'd be like, I get it. I know you've answered this 1,000 times, but like for the context of this arc, it would be helpful to have. But generally, I do a lot of interviews, a lot of research. I do a lot of interviews too, which generally, turns out quite well. Thomas from At the Gates at the end of an interview once was just like, anything else you want to say? Like the floor is yours. And just, as you kind of tend to end interviews like that. And he said, no, like, thank you so much. This is one of the best interviews I've ever done. Like you did your research and like, it was great. So that was awesome. And then on the other hand, one time I interviewed a bot, and it's online on my Aggressive Tendencies YouTube channel, and it was definitely one of the strangest conversations I've had in my life.
I've heard he's actually like that from people that have toured with him and been in the band with him.
Yeah.
He's always on like that.
Yeah. I've heard stories as well. Nice guy, but definitely like ups and downs kind of thing. And yeah, like at one point he was like, are these all the best questions you have? And then like a minute later he was like, he leaned forward and he goes, maybe the problem is your questions are too good for right now. And I think that's what happened. I think I was asking him about the mask that King of Hell from his band was wearing, and his girlfriend designed that. And I think I asked him about that, and he
didn't want to divulge that much.
I knew about. I don't know where I pulled that out, but he was like, "Whoa!" And I think that's what it is. So sometimes it does catch people off guard, and if they're not in the mood, sometimes if you catch people off guard, they give you a great answer and they're excited, like you did your research. But in that case, he was like, "Whoa!" But that interview is hilarious.
Were you at my house?
Yes. Yeah, I went to Norway. But yeah, generally, I'd say that's how I've grown the most, is just like obsessively doing research, like listening to every podcast, every YouTube interview, like reading everything that I can.
That's intense. I'm impressed.
Why not do the best that I can?
That's really good.
So yeah, I'd say that's how I've grown the most. And the other way I've grown the most is I've become less confident in myself, which is funny how that works.
Which is going to be my next question, because you said you were so shy as a kid and now you're in complete control of interviews, which is like just pure confidence.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, and I think I forget, there's a term for this, that like the more you know, like the less you feel like you know. The people who feel like they know everything usually don't know that much.
But they act like they know everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. Like the more interviews I do, like the more reviews I do, the more I just know that there's just so much stuff out there. And it's like, I just feel like I know that I'm good at what I do, because I wouldn't have my jobs if I wasn't. But like, I always feel like I can do better, which is probably a good thing, right?
It is a good thing. It's exactly like, being in a band and me and on stage just always wanting to be a better screamer, and every album getting a little bit better and never satisfied. My goal was to play whacking, and when I was a kid, I played whacking. Now I want to play whacking on the big stage. It's just we're hungry, which is a good thing.
And if you're not, like, what are you doing? Just go find something else to do.
Seriously, yeah.
Like, unless you're making absurd amounts of money to do nothing, in which case keep doing what you're doing and live the dream on the side. But none of us are doing this for money.
No, that's
operating
a pure passion.
Operating in like extreme music, both on the stage and in terms of journalism, which is, one of my editors once said we're at the intersection of two dying industries, the music industry and the print journalism industry.
It's true.
And that's where we're at. So it's like, this is never.
Does Exclaim still print?
Yes.
Yeah.
We are Canada's only music magazine still in print and available nationwide.
Wow.
There are regionals. Beat Route comes to mind from out west. And, there are like magazines like Brave Words, which is an online exclusive now.
That used to be a big thing, Brave Words.
Dude, I found a bunch just down the street here at BMV for $2 a pop, and
really?
I just bought them, and I just like have been enjoying going back through them. And I've actually been asking Tim from Brave Words, I'm like, dude, like you should just print books of all the old issues. Like,
oh yeah, that'd be super cool, like a nostalgia thing.
Yeah, like a year at a time or whatever. Yeah. Like I was like, you
could even do like a crowdfund thing.
Yeah, like I would do that. Like I just love old interviews and like context like that you'll never get. Like I've in reading these, I've read some stuff about like, side projects that a band was starting with some other band that never materialized. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what? Like, I want to talk to them about that. And eventually I think I will, go back, and I have notes of this somewhere. I just basically read old magazines and pull out stuff that I find is interesting. And then eventually I'm going to want to go back and ask about it, or like there was an interview with Killswitch Engage in Alternative Press when The End of Heartache came out. It was like a review with an interview attached. And they said that the riff from The End of Heartache was a ringtone that they jacked from their tour manager, his phone, new phone that he had got before they were on Ozfest, and was ringing incessantly. So I started looking for popular ringtones from around that time from the major cell phone companies.
Yeah.
And I found one that kind of resembles it. So someday I kind of want to like get those guys and just be like, hey, is this the ringtone? Or maybe they were just making a joke, but I took it seriously enough to try to go find it.
Do the hunt.
Yeah. So I found one. I hope I have it saved somewhere. I'm going to have to do the hunt again. But yeah, doing stuff like that is cool. You know what I mean?
Good. It's very intense. 'Cause it's all the not drinking.
Yeah.
All the time I spent hunting and trying to find beer.
Yeah.
And tasting beers you put into your research.
Or being hungover. Do you get hungover?
I do, but I tend to dance around it pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah. But it is a detriment to the next day's productivity.
Right.
When it does happen, for sure.
Yeah.
I got 2 little kids, so at home I have to be sharp when I wake up.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. How old are your kids?
I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh, wow. Very young.
Let's talk about when you do reviews.
Yes.
How do you go about your thought process of that? Did you ever think that you would do that?
I mean, dude, like I always...
to the point where like your opinion is actually important.
I mean, that's the thing is like I don't feel that my opinion necessarily is important any more than anybody else's. I think a company who has some pull thinks that I know enough to be there, but I don't put my voice above anybody else's. I think I treat reviews when I consume them mostly as entertainment because we live in a day and age where you can just go on Spotify and look it up. Back in the day, I think reviews mattered a bit more because if you wanted to go listen to it, you had to get on the bus, go to the mall, ask them to open it, put it in the player, and then there was a guy behind you like really wanting to listen to like the new Tool album and like tapping on the shoulder because he wants his turn. So it was a whole thing. So there was, I think, a little bit more value to that, especially for the underground stuff where you might not even be able to go to the store and pick it up, right? Because they didn't have it. They'd have to order it in and then you'd have to listen to it. And then if you didn't want it, you'd look like a jackass. Whereas now you can just pull it up online. So I view reviews more as entertainment. And also just to hear other points of view. I think I've had people tell me that they hadn't heard an album the same way until they heard my take on it, and then it kind of changed how they heard it. And the same thing has happened to me. Like, somebody hears a different nuance or explains why this part hits hard for them, and I'm like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. So that's what I think it is. I think reviews they're entertainment. I love to watch and hear and read and whatever reviews of albums that I already know. Who
would be like your top reviewer that when you started doing reviews, you looked at him as like a mentor?
I don't know if I have one, honestly. Like, it was like collectively just every magazine. Like, I wasn't, and I think that's one thing that's changed a lot in like my switch from print to video is that I wasn't really looking at the names. I was reading the publications. I was reading, the first, Exclaim was number 1 for me. I saw it for free at like the Beat Goes On used CD store, and it had like Converge or Propaganda mentioned on the cover. So I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to pick this up. And then the first one that I bought, I believe, was an Alternative Press. I forget what was on the cover. Like, I think it was Good Charlotte on the cover with some like other like punk adjacent band names. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like this. I didn't know there were magazines that were about,
music that I like.
Music in that realm, right? Exactly. So I bought that, and then, Revolver, and then Decibel, and then when my dad would go on work trips in the UK, he would bring home a Metal Hammer for me. And it wasn't really about a specific reviewer at the time. It was just about anything that I could consume that would tell me about a band that I might not have heard about. And I would be like, whoa. There was another cool thing. There used to be that AMP magazine, I think American Music Press. It was
yes.
It was like a newsprint magazine.
Yes.
The cover was glossy, but it was all newsprint inside. And the one that I got had Avenged Sevenfold on the cover. It was $2, and it came with 2 sampler CDs. And I learned about Black Dahlia Murder, Light This City, and As I Lay Dying from that.
Really?
And there was a band called...
It's like an age that's just gone.
Yeah.
Especially with the internet, it's just so easy. There's like an oversaturation of too many bands, too many fake bands, people that can't even play anymore.
Yeah.
It's like a dying era.
Yeah.
Yeah. The tape trading days are gone. These sampler CDs are gone.
Samplers are great. I was talking about that with my friend earlier. You'd go to the show, and then as you were leaving, people would just be handing samplers out, and maybe you'd find a band you love on that. Like, or like Victory Records always putting a DVD in like a bonus DVD of their music videos and their things, like,
which is smart too.
It's
though.
smart. Yeah, it's just a good move. Like, what's it cost them to print that, you know, like
an extra $1 per.
And like there's 8 bands on there. What if you like even 2 of them and then you go buy the CDs? They just made their money back like 190%, you know?
Exactly.
Almost twice as, or almost 3 times.
You mentioned Tool. I'm a big Tool fan. I've been waiting, as everyone has. I don't know what to expect. I hope I'm going to like it. Do you think you're going to like it? I don't know if you're a Tool fan.
I'm not a Tool fan.
Okay.
And this is something that happened on Banger, actually. We did a rewind for 2001 where people vote on the albums to review. And, you know, and I had to review Tool, and I just don't get it. I don't. I gave it a chance. I listened, as I do.
What album was that? That was
Lateralis.
Okay, yeah.
To be fair, I did like the stuff that I'd listened to from before that more. That one just felt a little bit less energetic, more like we're intellectual. So anyway, so I reviewed it, and I was lukewarm on it. I gave it a chance. It's not like I listened to it once and said, fuck this. When I start doing reviews, the way I usually do it is I'm working at my job and I'm listening to the album on repeat. And then when stuff jumps out to me, I make a note of it, whether that's good or bad. Because if it is enough to get me to stop just kind of mindlessly doing my job or whatever, and go like, what was that? Either good or bad. Chances are it's going to be worth talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's kind of how I start.
How many times you listened to an album before, roughly?
Oh, probably do that like 6 times or something.
Really?
Like, through as a passive listen. Just because I just kind of do it throughout the day, and then I pause it when I have to take a phone call, and then I hang up the phone and I forget to turn the music back on, and then 20 minutes later I'm like, oh shit, and then I press play. But yeah, I go through it quite a few times, and then eventually I'll do my dedicated listens, because there are some nuances that you will not hear if you're just passively listening. So I will I listen quite a few times. I mean, it's funny, like you have to listen less when it's a band that you're intimately familiar with, because you know the band and like right off the bat, whereas like when it's a band you're maybe not as familiar with, you want to go back and do listens to their most recent stuff, maybe their earliest stuff, see like what the trajectory is, and then listen to it a whole lot more. Whereas like when it's a band like Black Dahlia Murder or something, you know what I mean, who've been like omnipresent in my life for like at least half of it
since that sampler.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a new album comes out, and it's just like I do go back and listen to previous stuff, but like just as a refresher, not as like because I know it. I just like intimately know it.
How about, like, you've done so many reviews? You said you did 50 to 60 reviews. Has an album grown on you that you disliked earlier on? Say you gave it a bad review. If you re-listen to it now, have there been like a secret creeping up love affair? Or do you stay true to your opinion?
Generally, I'd say my opinion wouldn't be like it doesn't do like a big swing, maybe up or down a tiny bit. So, for example, when the first At the Gates album came back, when they came back, At War with Reality, great album. I gave it a perfect score, and I think I was just like overly excited that
they were back. Yeah,
and it's great, and I think it is really cool, like that they didn't just write,
Slaughter the Soul part
still
2.
slaughtering the soul. And I think I wrote that in my review. But there's like a lot of like these like dreary like melancholy riffs, even more so because people say that there's like melancholy and melodeath, and there is, but like it was more an aggressive sadness, whereas this felt like weeping on this album, and I thought that it was really cool. But was it a perfect album? I don't know. I've never aside from that, I've never given out a perfect score, except for when we do our rewind reviews and like we're reviewing Meshuggah's Bleed 10 years later, and I'm like,
it's still perfect.
Yeah, look at what that's done. Sometimes you need that perspective to be removed from it,
and it's like a genre-changing album.
I mean, I gave when we did Overkill Global, I gave Cryptopsy and Gorguts, I gave both bands a perfect score on None So Vile and Obscura.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like in that, you need that context sometimes. It's pretty hard to say this is perfect right off the bat. But yeah, as far as like an album that I didn't like that I've come to like, okay, one thing that comes to mind is, and I liked the album, the new Archspire album. I gave it 4 out of 5. But the one thing that I wasn't huge on was the Calamus Will Animate track, the opening with like the machine gun part.
Yeah.
And then somebody explained
that it's actually a gunshot,
and that it's a tribute to Tech Nine. Like it's a rip of a Tech Nine thing, which I knew Ollie, you know, and potentially other guys in the band are influenced by him, but I didn't realize that it was directly like that, which gives it a little bit more context, which makes it seem less, because like the machine gun thing is so like early 2000s metalcore, deathcore, like machine gun breakdown thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Not that that was done in the same way, but just like that kind of triggered that in my brain. But like hearing that context, that it was like a direct like tip of the hat to Tech Nine, made me appreciate it more. But yeah, I don't think there's, as far as I can think of off the top of my head, there hasn't been like an album where it's like I didn't like it and then I started to really like it. Okay, so also, to be fair, and this is like probably not going to be considered cool at all, but
it's okay.
But like when Bring Me the Horizon's Sempiternal album came out, I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think that album's fucking perfect.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think it's just like it was such like a perfect album for that point in their careers, like a transition between like the metalcore band that they were and like the rock band that they were becoming, and now essentially like almost like a pop band. And I think it's great. I think the heavy parts are as heavy as they need to be. The melodic parts are as perfect as they can be. And you know, I think I was a little harsh on the band, coming from a little bit too much of a metalhead side. So that's one, but you know, that's like a 7 plus a little bit. It's never really gone from like a 1 to
yeah.
You know,
I hate this album to something that you listen to every day.
I hate the Suicide Silence newest album as more than I ever did before. But I was the other day listening to the Black Crown album by them, and I think that album was like monumental, you know, in terms of the melding of like deathcore with new metal. And like, look where we've gone. You know, deathcore bands are,
look at Whitechapel.
Yeah,
that new Whitechapel's a banger,
dude. It's
awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I predicted 2 albums ago when I reviewed their album, Our Endless War for Exclaim, I predicted that they were going to be like the next like Lamb of God, like
it's coming.
Who crosses over without ever like. You can't say Lamb of God fucking sold out. They never did.
No.
Yeah, sure, Sacrament has like a little bit more melody or whatever, but then after that they put out Wrath, which was like the first like 3 songs. There's like
and the riffs are still there.
Yeah,
it's not like they're making ballads or anything.
Yeah, and that's what I think is with Whitechapel. I think they could be that band, the band that crosses over to a larger thing without giving up the credibility. Funnily enough, they do like kind of ballads on this one, but like it's just so good. It's well done. Phil is just such a good vocalist.
He's
like,
good, yeah.
He's a freak. Like
he's always been good. Yeah.
His patterning, like his range, and now his singing, like. Yeah, that dude's great, and that album's great. And yeah, like back to the Suicide Silence thing, like the Black Crown, I think was like very influential. Like so many deathcore bands now are very new metal. Like they got like the breakdowns aren't like da 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 da. It's like bow, bow. Like it's like halfway between gent and metalcore is new metal,
it's
and
like
that's what
Pantera almost.
Yeah. And I think that album is huge. And like, I mean, people can say what they want about that band because they're like deathcore or whatever, but like. They had Frank Mullen do guest vocals. They had Jonathan Davis do guest vocals on that album. They had like 2 of the most influential people in the 2 main genres that were coming and influencing their sound do guest vocals. So it's like, man, like people could say whatever they want. That band like were living their fucking dream at that time. And I'm not gonna like I love that album. I love The Cleansing. No Time to Bleed. The album between those, I liked it. Not on the same level as those other 2. The new one just didn't do it to me, but like that doesn't take away from what they've done, which was the Black Crown, I think, was really a blueprint that a lot of bands took from. Even bands being able to admit that they like new metal, which for a long time you couldn't. It was like a dirty little secret.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I grew up in it, so
yeah. I mean. So one of my colleagues at Banger, he sometimes gives me shit for liking some metalcore bands, you know, like the Killswitch Engage, Atreyu, like whatever.
I probably wouldn't be screaming if it wasn't for Killswitch.
Yeah,
like, I was a singer that, you know, and I discovered that, and I was like, wow, you can do both, and
hell yeah.
Oh, okay, I'll try that. And
yeah, man, it's a gateway, and that's what new metal was for people that are 5 years older than me. You know, and I think there's nothing wrong with either.
Everyone all hates Five Finger Death Punch. You know, I don't like them, but if it gets kids to listen to screaming music and it ends up being that gateway, you know, and they're only a few albums away from Cannibal Corpse at that point.
Yeah. I reviewed Beelzebubs, that cartoon black metal band. It's from like a comic strip.
Okay, no, I'm not familiar at all. No.
Yeah, so it's a comic strip, like an online comic strip. A guy I think his name is Johan or something. I think he's from Finland, and he made this like comic strip, like it's like a Calvin and Hobbesy, like kind of like super punny and funny comic strip starring like a black metal band. And then eventually, because of course, if you can make money off something, you're going to make some money off something. So Century Media gets them to put out an album. The rumor is it's Insomnium, the band.
Really?
Based on the vocals and based on some other stuff, people have been predicting that it's Insomnium. So I reviewed that for Banger, and given the time frame, it will be out by now. By the time that this is, people are listening to this. As you hear this, you can go watch that right after. Beelzebubs. Yeah, I don't know why it was like that, because you think of Beelzebub, right? But
yeah, that's probably on purpose.
Yeah.
Sounds like a drunken tour bus idea.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a copyright thing, but like the name of a fucking demon can't be copyrighted, so I don't know.
I think it's a drunken tour bus thing.
Yeah. So
if it is Insomnium, I know they do naked bus parties too.
Okay. Anyway, so I didn't love the album. I thought it was very like by the numbers, melodic, black metal, like
it's stock.
Yeah, it's stock. But I ended my review. I did a tag team with Sarah. And she more or less echoed the same thing. There was also some problems that we had with the disconnect between the comic book and the music. Like the comic book is so black metal, like at references to Satan all the time, which it does get overbearing. And then like the music is just like and also like it doesn't in the same way that Death Clock added to the Metalocalypse mythos with their songs. This doesn't. It just like seems tacked on.
I miss Death Clock.
Oh my god, dude! Like, give us a last season. Like Adult Swim. You don't even have to do anything, man. Like people were.
They didn't do like a crowdfund, a Patreon.
Other networks offered to pay for it, and I'm sure that Adult Swim would still make money off that. They just wouldn't have to. It would just be like, no worries, just like give us it, bro. Like just let them finish up the fucking story arc. Like come on.
Yeah, because there's all these loose ends and holes in the plot. And
I hate that.
Patience.
Yes, in time, hopefully.
When the new Tool comes out.
Yes.
Sorry, you're talking about the music wasn't living up to the comic book.
Right, but then in the end I said, you know what, like this could appeal, and that's coming from people who listen to metal a lot, that this isn't like super great, but it's well done for sure. Like it's like good, like on a surface level, like technically speaking they're not doing anything wrong. It's just like very bland when you've heard it a million times before or whatever. So for somebody to hear that as their first album in the metal genre might love it, and then that might make them, there's a character in it called Hubbot instead of Abbot. It would like Hubbath, and that maybe they go check out Abbot, and then from listening to the Abbot album, they're like, oh, he was in a band called Immortal.
Yeah.
And then they go do their homework on like Norwegian black metal, and hopefully
Emperor, and then
hopefully they skip all like the racist shit and just listen to
the music,
the good stuff, and
leave our churches alone.
Yeah, dude, it's weird. Lords of Chaos came out, and now there's been a bunch of church burnings in the past while. It's like copycat crime is a real thing.
Yeah.
A real thing. It's crazy. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and because it's a cartoon, it could appeal to younger people. And it's like, as much as I can't sit and review it for a metal centric publication full of metal nerds and say this is great when I don't think it is, and it doesn't offer anything new to seasoned fans of metal, I do hope that it does very well and succeeds, especially with attracting younger people to metal.
Yeah, and anything to get more kids into the crowd. We're all getting old.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Dude, I got into metal through Sum 41.
Wow.
That was the first CD I bought, and they had some heavy parts, and then eventually it just led to me looking for heavier and heavier guitar-based music, and then eventually I got into metal. And like, if you listen to old Sum 41, like there are some legit like heavy parts. Like I
know one of the guitarists is actually a real metal dude.
Yeah. There's what's the song? The Bitter End sounds very much like Battery by Metallica.
Oh, cool.
And it's awesome. And there's like a song called Thanks for Nothing. It's got like a chuggy breakdown and stuff, like, and people will be like, oh, they're a pop punk band, that's lame. It's like, it got me into metal, dude. And then now this is my job, promoting metal through my various like outlets, and hopefully I get other people into, deeper into like the underground, weirder, heavier stuff. And if that all came from Sum 41, then who cares if they're a pop punk band? That's badass.
Which I love. Banger does the months
Metal Monthly?
Yeah, what you might have missed or something.
Oh yeah, okay. So we
I
have
like that, yeah.
two things. Yeah, we have Metal Monthly, which is Blaine's show. He does it once a month, and he just picks 5 releases that he's stoked on. And then twice a year, we do like, what did we miss this year?
Exactly.
Where we let our viewers vote on it, and then we review the ones that have the top 5 most votes. And that's how we ended up reviewing the Rivers of Nile album last year, which we didn't review right when it came out. And I think
shout out to those boys. I love them.
Yeah,
love
dude,
that album.
Great dudes, great album. I think it kind of came out of nowhere for everybody. They were always like a band I think that people liked, but not on the level that people like this album.
I was hanging out with Biggs the other day in Reading, Pennsylvania. He came out to the show, and I was asking him like, how do you guys feel about the next? Are you guys like worried? Do you have that like follow-up album stress? And he seemed to say yes. There's a big expectation.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I interviewed them, and there was like a whole bunch of extenuating circumstances. The interview didn't come out right away. It took quite a while. But in the interview, they had said that their plan was to move away from the sax thing and to go more dissonant and stuff, which I was excited about because I love the Gorguts and like the Death Spell Omegas. Like they were like talking about blending in a little bit more like black metal influence and stuff, and I was excited about that. And then when the interview went up, Brody told me that he's like, well, we've talked some more. Maybe we won't go fully away from the sax. So I'm not sure. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But either way, like I do like that they're cognizant of the fact of not wanting to be the sax band.
Yeah.
Because they could just do that and just fucking get big off that, because it's so many people just don't know that other bands have done that, and that this is their first exposure to it. So it's cool that they're cognizant of that, and they're not going to be cheap about it. But yeah, that band and that album is great, and I think that that's a perfect case where it's like people like that band, but like until like it came out and the reaction was there, like we couldn't have known that album was going to be as big as it was, because before that point they were like a 1 of 4, a 2 of 5 band, perpetually for the 2 album cycles.
Exactly.
And I think that that's great, that it did that. And it's great that we have that segment where people can be like, this album, you need to be paying more attention to this, you and everybody else. And
the world, yeah.
And if we can talk about that album and then it gets more people onto it, that's a great thing.
Where do you picture yourself in 10 years?
Fuck, man. I'd like to go on tour some more. I am this summer. I'm going to Europe with Frontierer.
Oh yeah, I love that band.
Yes, so that actually started out through some banger things.
I love that band. Nobody knows about that band.
They're unreal. They're
very unappreciated.
They're unsigned.
They're unsigned
by their own choice. I guarantee you, every label has come like begging.
I love that record, that new one.
So good, dude. So anyway, it started with Banger. I just talked about them in a video, and then one of their friends sent it to them, and then we connected and we were talking, and then out of nowhere, Pedram messaged me and asked if I'd want to come to Europe with them. So I'm doing that in the fall.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then
what are you doing? You're just TMing or
filming?
Really?
So I'll be
awesome.
Yeah, and I've never been to Europe, and so that's really exciting. And they said the majority of the places we're going on the tour, they haven't played. So it's cool to go to a place like that with other people when it's there, when they haven't been there, because
you're experiencing it together.
Yeah, because otherwise they might be like, I've seen that place, who cares, and then you're just out exploring on your own.
Yeah. I tend to explore on my own just because I like to get away from everyone.
Yeah, fair enough. So maybe I'll get to that. No, I won't, because I want to film. I'm gonna be filming the whole time. So, but yeah, in general, sometimes I was always the van sleeper when I was on tour. I didn't mind. My quote unquote payment was the bass player's Mophie charger, so I could charge my phone. But other than that, I'd stay out there so we didn't get robbed, and also it was just nice to get away from everybody. That
is a good tip for people that are touring in vans. You need to have a van sleeper. You don't want to get your shit jacked.
It's really not that bad. It's the benches are comfortable enough. You're away from everybody. You're on your own. It's great. But yeah, so I'd like to do some more touring for sure. I'd like to continue to write, do more videos, do more reviews. Hopefully Banger continues to grow. Hopefully
where do you see Banger going?
I mean, dude, we hit 200,000 subscribers like a couple weeks ago, and now we're already at like 208,000. So it's just it's constantly growing. They're filming a new season of our show Shredders of Metal.
Yes. That was cool.
So and that show has been very, when that first came out, it was great for people finding out about Banger. because if you're not a huge fucking nerd who wants to hear album reviews, the channel might not appeal to you on the same level, but you come in on that show and then you're like, oh, these interviews are actually kind of entertaining. They're not just some guy saying like, my opinion's better than yours.
In horrible quality.
Yeah, it's exactly. And that's the other thing. We got great production values because it's a documentary company. You know, they don't let it slip ever. It's always good. So yeah, I see Banger just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Like I can't see it slowing down really. We have ideas and we're gonna keep pursuing them. I want to continue doing interviews, continue writing, just doing cool shit. Maybe like I said, going down into the archives of old magazines and pulling up cool shit and asking the bands about stuff that they haven't thought about in 20 years and
re-spark ideas.
Dude, if like, you know what I mean? Like if I could do that and then it makes this, oh man, I remember we have demos for that supergroup somewhere and they put the demos out or they revisit the idea and they do it again. Like that would be the coolest thing.
What would be an album that you're obsessed with right now?
An album that I am obsessed with right now. I mean, it's not out yet, but the new Full of Hell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm stoked to hear that.
That band is wonderful.
I'll always throw their name into the mix when we're talking about who we want to tour with.
Hell yeah.
Every single time.
Dude, and like they are, have you met them?
No, I haven't. No,
nicest people.
I want to have you on the podcast. Come on out, Full of Hell.
Yeah, hell yeah. Dude, yeah, they're unbelievably like kind people and like their ethics, like the business ethics, like I've talked to Dylan about it and like they just like operate so... Like they're just like a great band musically and like how they operate, and I have the utmost respect for them. So that album is great. I mean, I'm still on the new Whitechapel album, which I think is the ultimate compliment because often you finish reviewing an album and you've been listening to it constantly and the first thing you do is turn it off. With the Whitechapel album, on my way to and from the studio filming, I listened to the album, which I think
that means something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that really says it, because usually I'm like, I just listened to nothing but this for the past month, or not month, but like weeks.
I was a huge Strappy Young Lad fan. I fell into becoming a Devin Townsend fan. I really wanted to like this new record, and I don't know if it's because I'm on tour and I'm getting bombarded with heavy music all the time. I can't get into that new album. I don't know about how you feel about it.
I like that one song with Chad Kroeger on it, even though you can't really hear Chad Kroeger on it.
I forgot he was even on it.
It's because he's like harmonizing with Devin.
Okay, I forgot it. I know Elliot's on it.
It's the most strapping young lad song on the album.
Okay.
Is the one with Chad Kroeger on it, and I'm pretty sure that he's like harmonizing with him, and I wish that he just got him to do like some growls or something, because that would have been so cool. Dude, okay, so Nickelback was in Toronto for the SOCAN Awards.
Yes.
And I saw like people had posted like selfies with Chad and shit, so I tweeted at them and I said, yo, come to the Exclaim office, I want to interview you about all your heaviest riffs. And like just tweeted it out and hoped that it would happen, and it didn't, but it would have been fucking funny if it did.
Yeah. I don't hate Nickelback. They get a lot of hate. It's the same thing. If it gets kids into listening to heavier music, that's fine. Dude,
the song Sex, there's like a legit like mosh part and he goes, oh, like I shit you not.
And we've seen him do Metallica live.
Yeah.
They're not bad, and their drummer's really good.
Yeah, like, you know what? Like, I think me and my roommate had like we had an evening once where we went through every Nickelback song and just kind of skimmed through it to find the heaviest riffs in the Nickelback song. And I have a fucking list in my computer of the heaviest Nickelback riffs.
This is what happens when you don't drink, kids.
Yeah, exactly. You get bored, eat cereal with your roommate, and listen to Nickelback.
That's awesome. Really, thank you coming to sit down with me.
Dude, thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. You're an incredibly hardworking individual, and I'm in awe of all your prepreration.
Thank you.
It makes me feel like I'm completely unprepared for all my interviews.
I mean, dude, it was like the interview was like, it was good, it was conversational, and you never let there be like a dull moment. So I think you did your job, even if you didn't necessarily do the research. It was a good interview. You know what I mean? Like there was a back and forth and stuff. So there are many ways to achieve the right end result,
Yes,
and you got there despite the fact that you don't do it how I did it. But it's also a different medium, you know what I mean? Like people are coming to this in like, I'd say at least a part of the reason they're listening to this because they like you as a host. Whereas when you're writing, that's not the case.
They can't feel the personality.
Exactly.
Or see the personality.
Exactly. So it's like I need to pull interesting stuff out because the story needs to be the story, and that needs to be what pulls people in. Whereas like this, or me on Banger, people come watch it, they're like, I don't care about this band, but I like when Brad reviews stuff, and I think that's the difference here. Whereas like your personality comes through, your idea of the Vox and the hops comes through, despite the fact that we don't have any real hops, we had ginger beer, but hey, so yeah, you know what? Whatever, man. You did a good job. The interview was good.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate it, Bradley.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Hey, thank you all for listening right to the end. You Vox and Hops heads are the best. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. I had a great time. That was recorded right at the end of Hell Over North America. And as you could hear, my voice was pretty tired and destroyed as I was editing it. I was giggling at how horrible I sounded. It turned out I had a nasty cold when I finished that tour, and I didn't realize it until it was over, which was a good thing. I hope that you had fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening back to it. Bradley's a very, very smart and well-researched individual. It was very fun to interview someone who normally interviews other people, and it was a challenging interview that I enjoyed. And I've learned a whole bunch from it to come try to come a bit more prepared for interviews so that I can challenge myself to be half as good as Bradley is. So big cheers to you, Bradley. Thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and to give me some insights on how to become a better interviewer. I just want to give a big thanks to all of you who are listening, all of you who are sharing the podcast. There's lots of exciting things that are happening in the world of Vox and Hops. Big things that are coming. I can't really talk too much about them right now because they're not finalized or totally finished as of yet, but extremely exciting things coming up for Vox and Hops, and I can't wait to share all that with all of you. If you want to become a sponsor for the podcast, if you would like to be, I'm thinking of people involved in the music industry, if you're a manager, if you're a publicist, if you own a record label, and then on the other side of things, if you are a gear company and you would like me to push some of your gear, want to sponsor the podcast. On the beer side of things, if you are a brewer, if you're a distributor of beers, and you'd like me to share some of your products with my guests, hit me up at matt@voxandhops.com. That's MATT at VOXANDHOPS.com. And I would be more than glad to talk about that and discuss further with you there. I hope that you have a great weekend. I hope that you hang out with your friends. I hope that you hang out with your loved ones. And I hope you hang out with your families. I'm going to be relishing this last weekend before I'm off on the Laws of the Flesh 2019 in Asia. Just enjoying time with the family, with the kids, getting myself ready to be missing them pretty hard. So I hope you have a great weekend. Take the time to enjoy life, metal, and craft beers. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.